Welcome back. I'm Stephanie Beckwith Matthews to Dismantling the Patriarchy. Woohoo! We are on week 3, part 1, Internalized Oppression. The objective of this week is to identify, process, release internalized patriarchal and colonial programming, including self-doubt, criticism, and the need for external validation. This week focuses on building self-compassion and reclaiming a healthy sense of self. Now, let's start with understanding internalized oppression. Internalized oppression occurs when we unconsciously absorb the values and beliefs of dominant structures, leading to self-limiting thoughts, behaviors, and feelings of unworthiness. For many, patriarchy and colonialism implant messages that femininity is weak, sensitivity is unproductive, and success requires the suppression of your true self. Tism, right? Recognizing and releasing these inner constraints allow us to step into our authentic power. I want you to reflect on a time when you doubted yourself or felt unworthy. Where did this feeling originate? You can pause the video if you need to. What messages were you taught about self-worth, confidence, and expression? Were they supportive or critical? And I like to go back to ages of like elementary school age, as this is usually where a lot of our original programming hits. How does self-criticism impact your daily life and interactions with others? Welcome back to Dismantling the Patriarchy, week number 3, Internalized Oppression, part 2. So, identifying internalized messages is the aspects of this part. We are going to do an exercise of recognizing our self-limiting beliefs. I want you to write down a recurring negative thought that you have about yourself. Maybe I'm not good enough, I need to prove my worth, I'm a failure. These are all really common aspects of negative self-talk. Pick one. Reflect on where and who you heard these beliefs from first. Consider family, society, media, and cultural conditioning. If you do some really good inner child work, a lot of times you can actually find memories of your parent having similar self-talk and you actually picking up on it and absorbing it. Or you actually heard them say this to you, often because they have this negative self-talk and it came out to you. Not an excuse. Not an excuse. We're finding root cause, okay? Challenge this belief. Ask yourself, is this belief true? Who benefits from me holding on to this belief? This is a really valuable question. Who benefits? Are you benefiting from holding on to this belief any longer? It might have served you as a child. It might have served you to stay alive. Is this belief actually serving you any longer? Now I want you to rewrite another belief system. Transform it into a supportive statement. I am worthy as I am. I have nothing to prove to be valued. My success does not lie in me proving externally my need to prove others. For the aspects of I'm a failure, I am not a failure. I tried something that simply didn't work for me. This has been huge, that reframe in and of itself. What emotions arise when rewriting self-limiting beliefs? When I said, is this belief true? There might have been a little voice that was like, yeah, it's true, you're a failure. There could very well be little voices in your head saying and proving that this negative self-talk is actually beneficial or true. It is time to really start pushing up against that, but also listening. I've said it time and time again. You can put whipped cream, ice cream, sprinkles, a cherry on top of a pile of shit, and it's still a pile of shit. If you don't look at your core belief systems, you are not going to actually be able to move out those core belief systems to implant new aspects and ways of thinking. Super important. Last question for this part. How does it feel to imagine yourself fully free from these beliefs? Take a moment, take a breath. Can you imagine? And if you cannot imagine, then really use your imagination about a day when you wake up and your brain is talking only things for you, not against you. Imagine when you wake up that your brain is going, hey, you're beautiful. Let's have a great day. I know that everything is going to work out for you. This day is going to be pure magic. Every step you take is going to be awesome. Put those thoughts into your brain. When you start implementing this, it might just be subtle changes at first, little minute changes at first. This can become your reality, and I will help in any way, shape, and form to get you there. I'm on your side. If you have a negative self-talk that you can't think of how to reframe it, put it in the comments, and myself and others will be happy to give you some reframes. This is one of my favorite things to do, is to help people with reframes of negative self-talk, because it really is transformative when you can actually get these into your brain. Dismantling the Patriarchy, Part 3, Historical Context on Self-Worth and the Feminine. We're on Week 3, Part 3. In many matrilineal societies, a sense of inherent worth and purpose was cultivated through connection to community, nature, and feminine divine. Women and men were valued equally for their unique contributions, and collective well-being was prioritized over competition or self-criticism. However, patriarchal structures have historically valued people based on productivity and compliance, leading to a culture that rewards self-sacrifice and criticism, especially in women and marginalized groups. How might it feel to live in a culture where worth isn't tied to productivity or external validation? Do you even have any context for what that might even look like? Second question, what practices or values for matrilineal societies could help cultivate your sense of worth today? Refer back to video 1 for a few references, or week 1. Imagine your life without the need to prove your value. What changes would that bring to your life? Can you imagine for just a moment if you were just able to be? To be. Not proving, not having to do anything other than to just be. To naturally share whatever it was in that moment that you felt like doing. Incredible, right? This is possible. We can create this as a reality. The dismantling of the patriarchy actually has to become dismantled in order for us to usher this in. But this is a possibility, and it's worth dreaming, imagining, and creating for. Dismantling the Patriarchy, Week 3, Part 4. This is the meditation and visualization on self-worth and healing. Sit comfortably. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Imagine yourself as a child, free of criticism or external expectations. See this child surrounded by a warm light that represents self-love, acceptance, and worth. Now imagine your adult self joining this child, bringing your life experiences, strengths, resiliency. Reach out and hold the child's hand, feeling a connection that bridges time. Repeat these words silently or aloud if you can. I am enough. I am worthy of love just as I am. I am free to trust myself fully. I am free to speak my truth, and I am free to be heard. I do not need to prove myself to anyone for any reason. When you're ready, come back into this space and open your eyes. Allow yourself to feel this truth filling your body. Any thoughts of self-doubt or criticism are released and dissolved into the light around you. Take a few more breaths. Feel yourself being whole, complete, and at peace. How did it feel to connect with your inner child this way? Have you done inner child work before? What emotions or thoughts surfaced during this visualization, or specifically when you said aloud those words to yourself? How might this practice of sharing, I am enough, I am worthy of love, how might this practice influence how you speak and treat yourself? If you can, save and favorite this video and come back to it every day for the next week, doing this little guided meditation and visualization to really give yourself some new words to implant while we're shifting out some foundational root systems. Dismantling the Patriarchy, Week 3, Part 5. And we actually will have an extra part to this week because we're going to talk about codependency, so make sure to watch that next video. This time we're going to do some practical reprogramming. We are going to choose a self-compassion phrase. We used them in the last video like, I am enough, I am worthy of love as I am enough just as I am. My value is not based on my productivity. I do not have to do anything to be worthy of love. Okay, those are just a few. Pick one that you like. Write down that phrase. You're going to set a daily reminder for the next week to repeat this phrase. And then I also want you to do it especially in moments of doubt or self-criticism. So you can also write this on a mirror or on a post-it note, put it in your car, put it everywhere that you go. Notice any resistance, discomfort, or relief when you're saying this phrase. Journal your observations to track changes over this next week. What changes do you notice, even just right now, in your thoughts or emotions after practicing self-compassion? How might a compassionate inner voice shift your approach to challenges or mistakes? Can you imagine if every time you made a mistake or felt like a failure, instantly that voice in your said, you don't have to do anything to prove your worth. You're loved just as you are. These are things that we needed to hear as children and didn't. So now we get to say them to ourselves as adults. And this is a really powerful practice of reparenting ourselves. I want you to reflect on one moment during the day when you showed yourself kindness. How did it feel? If you didn't show yourself much kindness today, do so tomorrow. Make a plan and a practical action plan to really implement it. I have a few further journaling prompts. Identify one moment today when you felt self-doubt or self-criticism. What triggered it and how did you respond? So that's something that you can do daily. In the mornings for the next week. In the evenings, this is a great prompt to journal on. Reflect on a positive action or quality you demonstrated today. Take a moment to appreciate this part of yourself. Our final question for this part is, what belief about yourself do you feel ready to release? And what would your life look like if you fully embraced self-compassion? We're going to have one more video where I'm going to give additional resources in this week and also a whole nother section on recognizing and healing codependency. So don't make sure to go to the next video. Dismantling the Patriarchy, Week 3, Part 6. So this is actually some additional resources from the previous videos. There's a few books that I'd like to recommend. Kristen Neff's work on self-compassion. Her book is called Self-Compassion, The Proven Power of Being Kind to Yourself. And then there's another book by Sue Patenthol, The Courage to Be Yourself. And then I have some additional affirmation and journaling exercises before we get into that codependency aspect. Create a dedicated journal for self-compassion and worthiness. Each day, write one quality or action that makes you proud of yourself and affirm one aspect of yourself that you truly appreciate. This daily practice builds a habit of self-compassion. And then I'd like for you to take a piece of paper, and we're going to do a ritual for releasing self-criticism. You can do this now, or you can do this at the end of the week, however you would like to do that. You're going to write down self-limiting beliefs that you're ready to release each one on a small piece of paper. You're going to roll these not towards yourself, because when you're doing any sort of practice that you want to come into your life, so if you have things that you'd like to affirm, you can do this in a separate ritual, but this one you're going to fold these papers away from yourself. You're going to burn these papers. Take a little cup, a safe cup or a bowl, and you're going to burn these papers. And as you're burning them, you're going to watch them dissolve. You're going to watch the beliefs turn into smoke and turn into nothing. As you imagine a newfound sense of self-worth filling the space that those used to fill. Close by holding a crystal or a symbol of your worth. So you can take any sort of crystal. Clear crystals can be any crystal you want. They can actually be turned into that. And you're going to hold that crystal and you're going to reaffirm, I am whole and I am complete. I am worthy simply because I am. I do not have to work hard or do anything external to prove my value any longer. And so if you'd like to extend that ritual, you could also write a few of the affirmations that we've done in some of these previous videos on separate pieces of paper, fold them towards you, and you can put them in. You can burn them as affirmations, or you can put them in a jar and collect them as you think of good things to say. I know sometimes as you're scrolling through TikTok, sometimes you'll hear a great affirmation and make a jar or a box of them, that when you need to, when you're feeling self-doubt or self-criticism, you can actually open up that box and look at those affirmations to kind of give you some different ways to think about things. So we're going to do one more part for codependency. We all need this one, so let's hop into it. Dismantling the Patriarchy, Part 7, Codependency. This is such a huge part of the patriarchy. Recognizing and healing codependency. Codependency often arises from internalized beliefs that our worth is tied to how we serve, support, or meet others' needs at the expense of our own needs. Many patriarchal and colonial systems reinforce this pattern, particularly in those socialized to prioritize others' needs over their own well-being. Mothers, women, girls, children. Recognizing codependency allows us to establish boundaries, reclaim personal autonomy, and connect with others from a place of respect rather than sacrifice. I'm going to read that again. Doing so allows us connect to others from a place of respect rather than sacrifice. Reflect on a time when you prioritized someone else's needs over your own. That was probably today. Think about a moment in time today. What were you hoping to gain or avoid in doing so? A lot of times we end up doing a lot of things in hopes of gaining love, affection, feelings of worthiness, of being heard, being accepted, or we do them to avoid being seen, being heard, avoid getting in trouble, avoid having them think that we're a failure, right? Where in your relationships do you feel a sense of obligation rather than a choice? What are you doing that you feel obligated or expected to do rather than it being a choice? How do you feel when you consider setting boundaries to honor your own needs? What fears or beliefs arise? Please share them. It's so helpful to know that other people are experiencing the same thing. So, something that I've been doing a lot of is I've not been cooking dinner every night. I just made a giant family meal earlier in the week. And so I purposely said, hey, there's a bunch of leftovers this week. Make sandwiches, do whatever. I do have slightly older kids. But that is something that I don't want to have to be dependent on. And I have them cook a few nights a week. So it's really important to understand that you can ask for help. You don't have to do it all. If you don't have kids and you're still doing things for other people at work, start recognizing where you're doing things and you don't want to. Honor that. I was speaking in the video earlier about honoring your intuition. When you're not honoring your intuition and you're doing something out of obligation or expectation for yourself, you're actually losing the trust that you have in yourself. It's really important to start setting up these boundaries so that you can start trusting your intuition and trusting yourself of when you have a choice versus an obligation. If it is an obligation, understand that and fully allow for yourself to have feelings and intuitive nudges about those obligations so that you can begin being aware of them. I want you to identify a current relationship or situation. Think of a relationship where you often sacrifice your needs for another's comfort or approval. This could very much be parents, this could very much be friends, this could be your partner. Think about any current relationship or situation. Why do you feel the need to prioritize the other person's needs? Consider if this is driven by self-worth, fear of conflict, or a need for validation. When we're starting to do this work, you don't necessarily have to jump right in and start terminating these behaviors or even eliminating them right now. Oftentimes, just having the observation and awareness of what is happening and why you're doing it will begin to give you a sense of what to do next. Where in your relationships, next one. Choose one small boundary you could set in this relationship to protect your time, energy, or emotional well-being. I'll give you an example. My mom used to call me every single morning. This was not working out for me so much. So I shared with her that I'd like to talk once a week with her. I'd prefer it to be late morning or afternoon, as that I'm not starting my day with her. This was something that I felt a lot of guilt about at first, but then I realized how much I was prioritizing her needs and wanting her approval to be able to take up my valuable time versus me setting that boundary has been really beneficial and really healing for my own inner child and my own necessities. I want you to note any feelings of guilt or discomfort. I promise you will have lots of guilt and lots of discomfort when you start this practice. Reflect on where these feelings originate. How were you guilted and shamed as a child for not doing what others wanted you to do, especially when it came to their emotional irregulation and their needs being filled over your own? Remind yourself that boundaries are a healthy aspect